The morning sun cast long shadows across Seoul's towering skyscrapers as strange lights appeared in the sky. At first, people thought they were seeing meteors or satellites, but when the massive ships broke through the clouds, reality hit hard. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. Captain Lee Jin-woo stood at his post in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the alien vessels approach. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek silver shapes that defied Earth's known laws of physics. The ships moved with impossible grace, their hulls seemingly made of liquid metal that rippled in the sunlight. The global defense networks lit up like Christmas trees. Radar stations from Tokyo to New York tracked the visitors, while missile systems across every continent locked onto the unknown targets. Yet no one dared to fire. These ships had crossed vast distances of space. If they wanted to destroy Earth, they could have done it without showing themselves. Jin-woo's comm unit crackled to life. All senior officers to the Security Council chamber. Repeat, all senior officers to the Security Council chamber. He straightened his uniform and hurried through the corridors, passing junior officers who tried to hide their fear behind professional facades. The council chamber was already packed when he arrived. Representatives from every major nation sat around the circular table, their faces pale under the harsh lighting. General Park Ha-won, Jin-woo's superior, stood near the main display screen, her expression unreadable as she studied the incoming sensor data. "They're requesting landing clearance," announced the communications officer, her voice steady despite the situation. "They say they come in peace, as representatives of something called the Galactic Empire." A murmur ran through the chamber. Empire. The word alone carried weight, implications of power and control that made Jin-woo's stomach knot. He'd studied enough Earth history to know what empires did to those they encountered. 3 hours later, the Imperial ships landed in a specially cleared area outside Seoul. The landing site had been chosen carefully, open enough to prevent any sense of trapping the visitors, but surrounded by hidden defense positions if things went wrong. Jin-woo watched through high-powered binoculars as the first alien emerged. Ambassador Call stood nearly 8 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he surveyed the welcoming committee, and when he moved, his joints bent in ways that made several human observers look away. The alien delegation was escorted to the council chamber, where Earth's leaders waited. Jin-woo took his position behind General Park, noting how the temperature seemed to drop several degrees when the aliens entered. Ambassador Call carried himself with the casual confidence of someone who had done this many times before. "We have watched your species for some time," Call began, his words translated perfectly into Korean by a small device at his throat. "Your recent experiments with faster-than-light travel drew our attention. You stand at a crossroads." Jin-woo noticed how the ambassador spoke directly to General Park, perhaps recognizing her as a key military leader. The alien's upper eyes remained fixed on her, while the lower pair scanned the room continuously. "The Galactic Empire maintains order across 12,000 star systems," Cal continued. "We guide developing species, protect them from external threats, and integrate them into galactic society. Your species shows great promise. We offer you membership in the Empire." The words were diplomatic, but Jin-woo heard the steel behind them. This wasn't an offer. It was an ultimatum dressed up in polite terms. He glanced at General Park, seeing in her slight frown that she heard it too. "And if we wish to develop independently?" asked the general, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. Call's skin rippled in what might have been amusement. Independence is an illusion in an interconnected galaxy. Without imperial protection and guidance, Earth would face isolation. No trade, no cultural exchange, no access to advanced technology. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for lonely worlds. Jin-woo felt his fists clench. The threat was clear now. Join us, or be cut off from everything. He watched General Park slowly rise from her seat, her back straight and her chin high. In that moment, she represented not just Korea, or the Defense Force, but all of humanity. Ambassador Cal, she said, each word measured and clear. Humanity thanks you for your offer. We have heard your terms and understood their implications. She paused, her eyes sweeping the room before returning to the alien diplomat. Throughout our history, humans have faced countless challenges. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and our own worst impulses. Each time, we have emerged stronger, not because someone guided us, but because we chose our own path. The chamber had gone completely silent. Even the ambient sounds of the building's ventilation seemed muted, as if the very air was holding its breath. Therefore, General Park continued, we must respectfully decline your offer. Earth and humanity will forge our own destiny among the stars. Jinwoo watched the alien's reaction carefully. All four of Cal's eyes widened slightly, and his skin color shifted to a deeper blue. The translator at his throat crackled as he spoke. You understand the consequences of this decision. We do, General Park replied, her voice unwavering. And we choose them freely. Ambassador Cal stood, his full height making him tower over everyone in the room. No species has ever rejected Imperial membership, he said, his tone carrying something between amazement and anger. You would choose isolation over prosperity. We choose self-determination over submission. General Park corrected him. There is a difference. As Jinwoo watched this exchange, he felt a strange mix of pride and fear. Humanity had just taken its first real step into the galactic community by telling that community to back off. He didn't know what would come next, but he knew this moment would be remembered forever, one way or another. The Empire had challenged Earth, expecting submission. Instead, they got their first taste of human defiance. And deep down, Jinwoo knew this was just the beginning. In the depths beneath Mount Sorek, where few knew a facility even existed, Kim Minho hunched over his quantum computer display. The screens cast a blue glow across his tired face as he studied the latest test results. 3 days had passed since Earth's defiant response to the Empire, and he hadn't left the laboratory since. Professor Kim, you should see this, called out Dr. Song Jae-yun from her monitoring station. The intelligence officer had been tracking Imperial movements since their ships took up orbit around Earth. They're using some kind of advanced scanning technology. It's passing through our traditional stealth measures like they don't exist. Minho walked over to her station, adjusting his glasses as he studied the data. The Empire's scans were unlike anything they'd encountered before, energy patterns that seemed to ignore conventional physics. But there was something familiar about them, something that tickled at the edge of his understanding. Look at these wave patterns, he said, pointing to a particular readout. They're using quantum entanglement for their scans, but they're only looking for what they expect to find. Classical military installations, power plants, missile silos. He smiled slightly. They're not seeing our whole network because they don't know to look for it. Earth had learned from its history of warfare. After the cyber conflicts of the 2020s, the world's scientific community had developed a new approach. Instead of centralizing research in obvious facilities, they created a web of interconnected labs, each one hidden in plain sight. Shopping malls, apartment buildings, even old subway stations had been converted into research centers, all linked by quantum-encrypted communications. Jae-yun nodded, her fingers flying over her keyboard as she pulled up more data. Their scan patterns are methodical, but rigid. They're following the same search protocols they probably use on every world they encounter. The Empire's overconfidence was becoming clear. They'd done this so many times to so many worlds that they'd fallen into patterns. They expected Earth to follow the same technological development path as other civilizations they'd encountered. Minho returned to his main workstation, where his team was putting the finishing touches on their latest project. The quantum shield technology they'd been developing had taken an unexpected turn when they observed the Empire's ships. Their apparent ability to ignore conventional physics had given Minho an idea. Dr. Park, he called to his lead assistant, Modify the field harmonics to match these frequencies. He sent over the data from the Imperial scans. If we can synchronize our shield fluctuations with their scanning patterns, we could make our facilities virtually invisible to their technology. Park finished, already making the adjustments, because they won't be looking for something that matches their own energy signatures. The team worked through the night, fueled by coffee and the urgent knowledge that time was running out. Above them, Imperial ships continued their methodical survey of Earth's defenses, cataloging what they thought was the full extent of human military capability. They were wrong. In hundreds of hidden facilities across the globe, similar scenes played out. Teams of scientists and engineers worked on different pieces of the puzzle: quantum computing, advanced materials, energy weapons, and technologies that didn't even have names yet. Each facility only knew about their own project, a security measure that even the Empire's advanced scanning couldn't defeat. Professor Kim, Jai Yun's voice cut through his concentration. They're scanning this region now. The shield modifications are ready for testing. Minho took a deep breath and nodded. Activate the new harmonics. The lab hummed as the quantum shields came online, their energy signature now matching the Imperial scans perfectly. On Jai Yun's monitors, they watched as the Empire's sensors passed right over their facility without registering anything unusual. It worked, Hark whispered, almost afraid to say it too loudly. They can't see us at all. Minho allowed himself a small smile. Send the shield specifications to the other facilities, using the quantum network. Tell them to implement the changes immediately. As the data went out, encrypted in ways even the Empire couldn't crack, Minho thought about the bigger picture. The Empire saw Earth as just another primitive world to be assessed and absorbed. They expected to find a divided planet, with nations competing for resources and technology. Instead, humanity had learned from its past. The old rivalries hadn't disappeared, but they'd been set aside in the face of a greater challenge. Every major nation had contributed their best scientists and resources to the global research network. Chinese quantum experts worked alongside American engineers, Russian physicists collaborated with Japanese computer scientists, and Korean researchers shared breakthroughs with European laboratories. The Empire thinks they're dealing with a single planet, Minho said to his team as they gathered for a brief rest. But they're actually facing the combined intelligence and creativity of 8 billion minds, all working together for the first time in human history. Jai Yun looked up from her station with a grin. And they have no idea what we're capable of when we work together. The Empire's assessment of Earth would show them exactly what they expected to find: a moderately advanced civilization with predictable military capabilities. They would see the missile silos, the aircraft carriers, the space stations, but they would miss the true strength of humanity, its ability to think differently, to adapt, and to hide its advances in plain sight. Minho turned back to his work with renewed energy. The quantum shield was just the beginning. As long as the Empire underestimated Earth, humanity had a chance to prepare its surprises. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was surprising those who thought they had everything figured out. Commander Yoon sang. He stood at the observation dome of Lunar Base Armstrong, her eyes fixed on the growing constellation of Imperial warships. Their metallic hulls reflected sunlight like artificial stars, creating a web of light that stretched across Earth's orbit. She watched as another civilian transport vessel was forced to turn back, its cargo of rare earth minerals never reaching its destination. That's the third ship this week, reported her assistant, checking the logistics database. The Empire's blockade is getting tighter. Sang He nodded silently, her mind already working on alternatives. The Imperial ships might control the main space lanes, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. Space was vast, and humans had always been good at finding gaps in even the tightest nets. Down on Earth, in a heavily secured conference room beneath Seoul, Economic Advisor Choi Dong-hyuk presented the latest data to the Emergency Response Council. The wall screens showed graphics of trade routes, resource stockpiles, and production figures. The Empire thinks they're strangling us, Dong Kuk explained, highlighting several key indicators. But they've actually done us a favor. Our fusion power research teams, facing the threat of energy shortages, have achieved in months what might have taken years under normal conditions. The council members leaned forward as he brought up the next set of figures. We've converted 90% of our major cities to fusion power. The Empire's attempts to cut off our fuel supplies are becoming irrelevant. Deep beneath the streets of Busan, in an abandoned subway station converted into a command center, Li Su-jin coordinated a different kind of response to the blockade. Her network of civilian ships, modified with stealth technology developed in Minho's labs, was proving that space had more hiding places than the Empire realized. Cargo ship Phoenix is approaching lunar orbit, reported one of her operators. Imperial patrols are focused on the main transit corridors. We have a clear path through the L4 point. Su-jin checked the encrypted manifest. The Phoenix carried vital microprocessors from a hidden factory in Taiwan, components that would help maintain Earth's growing quantum computer network. The Empire thought they were preventing Earth from accessing advanced technology. They didn't realize humans were simply building it themselves. The Empire's strategic mistake, Su-jin explained to her team during their daily briefing, is thinking that blocking official trade routes will stop the flow of goods. They've never dealt with a species that perfected smuggling routes across oceans and continents for centuries. The Resistance Network had turned Earth's old smuggling expertise toward the stars. They used asteroid fields as cover, exploited gaps in the Imperial sensor networks, and even occasionally hid ships in the thermal wake of the Empire's own vessels. Back at the lunar base, Commander Yoon received an encrypted update from Earth. The fusion power breakthrough was just the beginning. Factories that had once depended on imported materials were switching to Earth-sourced alternatives. 3D printing technology, combined with advanced recycling systems, was reducing the need for raw materials. They expect us to beg for mercy, she muttered, watching another Imperial patrol pass by. They don't understand that pressure just makes humans more creative. The Empire's blockade had indeed cut off Earth from galactic trade networks, but it had also forced humanity to become more self-sufficient than ever before. Old rivalries between nations faded as the need for cooperation became paramount. Chinese manufacturing expertise combined with German engineering, Brazilian agricultural innovations merged with Indian software development. In his Seoul office, Dong Hyuk compiled reports from around the world. Every blocked trade route had sparked a dozen local solutions. When the Empire prevented the import of certain medical supplies, underground labs had developed new synthesis methods. When they cut off access to advanced computing materials, Earth's scientists had created innovative alternatives. Their greatest weapon against us, he told the council, has become our greatest advantage. They're forcing us to solve problems we might have ignored for decades. Su-jin's resistance network grew more sophisticated each day. Her ships now moved through space like ghosts, using technology that combined ancient maritime navigation techniques with cutting-edge quantum physics. The Empire's blockade was like a wall full of tiny cracks, and humanity had become very good at finding those cracks. We're not just surviving, she told her operators. We're preparing for the future. Every successful run through their blockade teaches us more about their technology, their patterns, their weaknesses. As another Earth day ended, Commander Yoon made her final rounds of the lunar base. The observation dome showed the glittering barrier of Imperial ships, still thick around Earth's orbit. But now she saw them differently. They weren't a noose anymore. They were a challenge, one that humanity was rising to meet in unexpected ways. The Empire had meant to isolate and weaken Earth. Instead, they had created a pressure cooker of innovation, forcing humanity to advance faster than anyone had thought possible. Every restriction they imposed sparked a dozen solutions. Every barrier they created led to new pathways of development. Send word to Su-jin's network, Yoon instructed her communications officer. Tell them to prepare for increased operations. The tighter they squeeze, the more will slip through their fingers. The economic warfare had begun as the Empire's strategy to force Earth's submission. It was rapidly becoming the catalyst for humanity's greatest period of advancement instead. The gentle hum of quantum processors filled the underground facility as Dr. Kang Ji-Soo stared at lines of code scrolling across her holographic display. She had been working on this program for months, ever since they first detected the patterns in Imperial communications. The breakthrough had come at 3 in the morning, when she realized the Empire's advanced AI systems had a critical flaw. They were too perfect, too logical. Their AI thinks in straight lines, she explained to Admiral Park Min-jae, who stood watching the testing process. They've programmed out what they consider errors, but those errors are what make human thinking special. We're unpredictable. We make intuitive leaps that their systems can't understand. The Admiral nodded, though his eyes showed he was struggling to follow the technical details. And this helps us how exactly? Ji-Soo pulled up a visual representation of the Imperial network architecture. It looked like a beautiful, symmetrical crystal structure. Look at this pattern. Everything they do is based on mathematical perfection. But in their pursuit of perfection, they've created blind spots, gaps that only an imperfect mind could see. Around them, her team of programmers and quantum engineers worked at their stations, each focusing on a different aspect of the cyber warfare system. They had named it Project Labyrinth because it was designed to create chaos in the Empire's orderly systems. Think of it like this, Ji-Soo continued, seeing the Admiral's confusion. Their AI is like a master chess player who knows every possible move. But we're not playing chess. We're changing the rules of the game while we play it. She demonstrated by running a simulation. On the main screen, their quantum-enhanced program went up against a replica of Imperial cyber defenses. Instead of trying to overpower them directly, it used seemingly random, almost playful approaches that confused the AI's prediction algorithms. Watch this, Ji-Soo said, pointing to a particular sequence. Their system expects attacks to follow logical patterns. When we do something completely unexpected, like this, she gestured at a bizarre loop in the code. Their AI literally cannot compute it. It's like showing a math problem that divides by 0. Admiral Park's eyes widened as he began to understand. You're not just attacking their systems. You're giving them logical paradoxes to solve. Exactly, Ji-Soo smiled. Every time they encounter one of our quantum-enhanced paradoxes, their systems have to dedicate massive resources to trying to understand it. While they're distracted, we slip through their defenses through paths they never thought to guard. The testing continued through the night. Ji-Soo's team had created something unique, a hybrid system that combined quantum computing's raw power with human creativity and intuition. The program didn't just follow instructions. It learned and adapted in ways that mimicked human thought processes. At midnight, they were ready for the first real test. Ji-Soo's hands hovered over the activation controls as she looked at Admiral Park for authorization. He nodded grimly. "Begin Operation Labyrinth," he commanded. The program launched, reaching out through quantum channels to touch the Empire's communication networks. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, displays around the room began showing successful penetration of Imperial systems. "It's working," whispered one of the junior programmers. "They can't track our quantum signatures because they don't follow any pattern their AI can recognize." Ji-Soo watched as her creation did its work. The program slipped through Imperial defenses like water through cracks, using methods that would seem nonsensical to the Empire's logical systems. Hear a burst of quantum noise that formed a perfect haiku. There a data packet that contained a mathematical proof of humor. Things that would force the Imperial eye to devote cycles to understanding them. "We're in their primary communication network," she announced as the first major breakthrough occurred. "Their encryption is failing because it's based on predictable quantum states. We're introducing uncertainty into their certainty." Admiral Park leaned forward, watching as Imperial communications began appearing on their screens. Fleet movements, diplomatic messages, tactical assessments. Earth suddenly had access to everything. The best part, Jisoo said with a hint of pride, is that they don't even know we're there. Their systems are so focused on looking for attacks that match their understanding of warfare, they can't see what we're actually doing. It was humanity's first major victory against the Empire, achieved not through traditional warfare, but through understanding the weakness in their opponent's strengths. The Empire's pursuit of perfect logic had left them vulnerable to human chaos and creativity. Send word to command, Admiral Park ordered. Tell them Operation Labyrinth is successful. We can now rid their books over their shoulders. Jisoo allowed herself a small moment of celebration before returning to work. This was just the beginning. Now that they had access to Imperial communications, they could start the next phase, subtly altering messages, creating confusion, and showing the Empire that their perfect system wasn't so perfect after all. The Quantum Computing Center continued its quiet hum, but now it was the sound of victory. Humanity had found its hidden advantage, turning the Empire's greatest strength into its greatest weakness. The war for Earth's independence had just entered a new phase, and for the first time, humanity held the upper hand. The trading station Omega hung in space like a giant metal flower, its petals spread wide to catch starlight and house millions of beings from across the galaxy. Han Ta-One adjusted his merchant's disguise as he made his way through the crowded lower markets. The Empire might control most of known space, but here in the neutral zones, their grip was looser. Tai-One checked his encrypted chronometer. 20 minutes until the meeting. He stopped at a food stall, ordering something that looked vaguely like noodles, maintaining his cover as just another trader looking for deals. His translator implant picked up dozens of languages around him, most complaining about Imperial trade restrictions. In a shadowy corner of Level 7, behind what appeared to be a broken maintenance hatch, Ta-One found the secret entrance. 3 quick taps, followed by 2 slow ones. The signal. The door slid open silently. "Welcome, Earth friend," whispered a tall, silver-skinned being. "The others are waiting." The hidden chamber was filled with representatives from worlds Ta-One had only read about in Imperial databases. A blue-scaled Centaurian, a crystalline being from the Orient sectors, several humanoids from various systems, all of them watching Earth's resistance with growing interest. "Tell us," the Centaurian delegate spoke first, her scales shimming with excitement, "how does Earth continue to defy them? Our own resistance was crushed within months." Tai-One looked around the room carefully before speaking. The Empire's greatest weakness is their certainty that they understand everything. They expect resistance to follow patterns they've seen before. We simply refuse to follow any pattern. He activated a small holographic projector, showing Earth's distributed defense network. "We don't concentrate our forces. We don't build obvious weapons. Every citizen is potentially part of the resistance, but even we don't know exactly how many are actively involved." The crystalline being chimed melodiously, their way of showing interest. "Your species thinks differently than ours. We tried direct confrontation. You seem to be fighting without fighting." Back on Earth, Commander Kim Hyun-suk was proving that point. In her command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, she coordinated what appeared to be random merchant ship movements. But each ship carried a piece of Earth's growing defense network, hidden in plain sight. "Status report," she called out to her operations team. "Phase 3 is at 60% completion," replied her second in command. "The Empire still thinks we're just trying to break their trade blockade. They haven't noticed the quantum-linked defense nodes we're placing in their blind spots." On Station Omega, Tai-One continued his secret meeting. The delegates from other worlds shared their own stories of resistance and failure, each one teaching Earth valuable lessons about what not to do. "The Empire expects rebellion," Tai-One explained. "They're prepared for it. What they're not prepared for is subtle change, tiny alterations to their perfect system that add up to major weaknesses." The Centaurian leaned forward. "We've seen their ships avoiding Earth's space lanes more and more. They claim it's to enforce the blockade, but we suspect they're afraid of something." Tai-One smiled slightly. They're afraid of not understanding. Every time they think they've figured out our capabilities, we show them something new. Not through force, but through confusion. Commander Kim's screens showed the latest success. Imperial ships had just passed right through a cloud of microscopic quantum sensors, thinking they were just space debris. Now Earth could track their movements even better than before. The Empire built their power on predictability. Taiwan told his fellow resistance members, they expect every world to develop along certain lines, to fight in certain ways, to eventually submit to their perfect order. Earth is showing them that perfection can be a weakness. The delegates murmured among themselves. Many had never considered resistance possible after their initial failures. But Earth was showing them a new way, not through direct conflict, but through systematic undermining of imperial certainty. We want to help, the crystalline being chimed. Our worlds have resources, knowledge, things that could aid Earth's resistance. And in return, Taiwan added, we'll share our methods. The Empire maintains control by keeping subjugated worlds isolated from each other. They never expected us to build our own secret networks. As the meeting concluded, each delegate left separately, carrying new hope and plans back to their worlds. The Empire's perfect system was developing cracks, and through those cracks, freedom was beginning to grow. Commander Kim received Taiwan's encrypted report hours later. She smiled as she read about the growing network of resistance worlds. The Empire thought they were containing one rebellious planet. Instead, they were watching the beginning of a galaxy-wide awakening. Send word to all cells, she ordered. Phase 4 begins tomorrow. Let's show the Empire that their perfect order is about to become perfect chaos. The resistance was no longer just Earth's fight. It had become a beacon of hope for every world that dreamed of freedom. And hope, as the Empire was about to learn, was the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Red alert sirens wailed across Earth's defense network as the Imperial fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 500 warships, their silver hulls gleaming against the black of space, formed an attack pattern that had conquered 1,000 worlds before. They expected this battle to end like all the others. They were wrong. Colonel Cho Mairei stood on the bridge of the EDS Phoenix, Earth's first stealth carrier, hidden in the shadow of the moon. Her ship was invisible to Imperial sensors, thanks to the quantum shielding technology that had been developed in secret. Around her, crew members worked with quiet efficiency, each knowing their role in humanity's most important battle. Multiple weapons locks detected, reported her sensor officer. They're targeting our visible defense platforms first. Mairei allowed herself a small smile. Those platforms were decoys, designed to draw Imperial fire, while Earth's real defenses remained hidden. Let them waste their energy, she said. All units maintain stealth protocol until my mark. The Imperial fleet opened fire, their advanced energy weapons lighting up space with brilliant beams of destruction. The decoy platforms exploded spectacularly, putting on exactly the show the Empire expected to see. Their commander is sending surrender demands. Communications reported. They're giving us 1 hour to submit to Imperial authority. Send no response, Mairei ordered. Let them think we're in chaos. Status of Protocol Phoenix. All systems ready, her tactical officer confirmed. Quantum network is synchronized. Defense grid is powered and waiting. In high orbit, Captain Bak Jin-ho watched from his command post on Space Station Liberty as the Imperial fleet moved into their final attack position. His station appeared to be nothing more than a civilian research facility, but it housed the central node of Earth's quantum defense network. They're launching fighter squadrons, Jin-ho reported to Earth Command, moving into standard Imperial assault formation. The Empire's fighters moved with perfect precision, their formation an artwork of military efficiency. But that precision was about to become their weakness. All units, Mairei's voice carried across the encrypted quantum network, execute Protocol Phoenix. Now. Across Earth orbit, hidden quantum generators activated simultaneously. The space around Earth seemed to ripple as thousands of quantum shields synchronized, creating overlapping fields of protection that operated on principles the Empire had never encountered. The Imperial fighters fired their first volley and watched in confusion as their weapons disappeared into quantum space, emerging harmlessly on the other side of Earth. Their perfect formation faltered as pilots tried to understand what had happened. Second phase, Mayray commanded. The Phoenix emerged from its lunar hiding place, along with 30 other stealth carriers. They had been built in secret, deep inside asteroid mines and hidden lunar bases. Imperial commanders tried to target the suddenly appearing Earth ships, but their targeting computers couldn't lock onto vessels that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Earth scientists had learned to weaponize quantum uncertainty itself. Their fleet is in disarray, Jin Ho reported with satisfaction. Their AI combat systems are failing to compute effective responses. That's when something unexpected happened. 3 Imperial destroyers, their crews having watched Earth's impossible defense, suddenly powered down their weapons. More ships followed their example, breaking formation as they recognized the futility of their attack. Multiple Imperial ships are broadcasting on our frequencies, communications reported excitedly. They're requesting permission to defect. Mayray leaned forward in her command chair. This was more than they'd hoped for. Imperial crews choosing to side with Earth rather than continue a pointless battle. This is Colonel Cho Mayray to all Imperial vessels, she broadcast. Those who wish to stand with Earth will be welcomed. Those who wish to continue fighting will learn why no one has ever successfully invaded our world. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation had completely broken down. Some ships continued their attack, their weapons useless against Earth's quantum shields. Others turned away, either retreating or moving to join the growing number of defectors. They never understood, Jin Ho said quietly as he watched the battle unfold. They thought their perfect technology made them invincible. They never realized that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to think differently. The Imperial Admiral's flagship, a massive vessel at the fleet's center, finally ceased fire. After centuries of unquestioned dominance, the Empire had met a force it couldn't overcome: human innovation and determination. All Earth forces, Mayray commanded, stand down weapons but maintain shields. Let's show them that humanity knows how to accept surrender gracefully. The battle that was supposed to subjugate Earth had instead become the Empire's first major defeat. As Mayray watched Imperial ships either retreat or join Earth's forces, she knew this was more than just a military victory. It was proof that humanity's path, messy, creative, and unpredictable, could overcome even the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The breaking point had come, but not as the Empire had planned. They had broken against Earth's defenses like waves against a cliff, and in doing so, showed the galaxy that their perfect order wasn't so perfect after all. The morning sun rose over Sol's skyline, its rays reflecting off the crystalline structures that had been built specially for this historic day. Delegates from 100 worlds filled the grand hall of the newly constructed Galactic Peace Center, their diverse forms creating a living rainbow of colors, shapes, and sizes. General Park Howon, her uniform adorned with the symbols of Earth's defense forces, stood at the central podium. Beside her, the Imperial High Commissioner seemed diminished in his once imposing ceremonial armor. They both held quantum tablets containing the Treaty of Sol, the document that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. This treaty, Howon's voice carried clearly through the hall, marks not an ending, but a beginning. Earth does not seek to replace one empire with another. We seek to build something new. In the front row, Admiral Li Jinwu watched with pride. He remembered that first contact day, when he had stood watching alien ships descend from the sky. Now, barely 2 years later, he was witnessing humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement. Ambassador Li Minji stepped forward, her diplomatic robes flowing with an elegance that combined Earth's traditions with galactic styles. She had spent months negotiating this treaty, working to ensure it protected not just Earth's interests, but those of all species who sought independence. "Let the record show," she began, her voice clear and strong, "that on this day, Earth and the Galactic Empire agree to these terms. First, all worlds shall have the right to choose their own path of development. Second, the sharing of technology and knowledge shall be based on mutual consent, not force. Third, the alliance of independent worlds shall stand as equal partners with the Empire in all galactic matters." The Imperial High Commissioner spoke next, his translator converting his complex language into clear Korean. "The Empire acknowledges that our way is not the only way. Earth has taught us that diversity breeds strength, that chaos can contain wisdom, and that perfection can become stagnation." Around the hall, representatives from former Imperial worlds nodded in agreement. Many wore badges displaying Earth's new symbol, a quantum spiral surrounding a simple human handprint, representing the combination of advanced technology with human unpredictability that had changed everything. "Our victory," Minji continued, "was not won through superior force, but through superior imagination. We did not defeat the Empire. We showed them a better way forward. Today, we extend our hand in friendship to all species, including those who once sought to conquer us." Had one remembered the long nights of planning, the risks they had taken, the innovations they had made. Earth had not just resisted, they had revolutionized galactic society. Their quantum technology, combined with human creativity, had shown the galaxy that there were always alternatives to overwhelming force. "Let this be known as the Dawn Treaty," Minji declared, "for it marks the beginning of a new age, an age where no species need fear domination, where every world can choose its own destiny, and where the galaxy's diversity becomes its greatest strength." The signing itself was brief, quantum signatures flowing across space-time to bind the agreement. As the last signature was recorded, a cheer went up from the assembled delegates. Ancient species who had lived under imperial rule for millennia were tasting freedom for the first time. Jin Woo caught Ha Won's eye across the room, both sharing a moment of quiet pride. They had done more than save Earth. They had transformed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. "The stars themselves have witnessed this day," Minji concluded. "Let them record that this was the moment when the galaxy learned that true strength lies not in uniformity, but in diversity. Not in control, but in cooperation. Not in perfection, but in possibility." As the ceremony concluded, delegates began mingling, former enemies becoming potential allies. Earth had shown them all that resistance was not futile. It was transformative. The Empire had sought to add Earth to its collection of conquered worlds. Instead, Earth had given the galaxy back its freedom. The new dawn had truly begun, and with it, a future that no one, not even the Empire's perfect predictive systems, could have foreseen. Humanity had not just survived, they had shown the galaxy a new way to thrive. The end.